Welcome to the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast powered by the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. I am your host, Junior Reed, and today we have our special guest, Tyler.
Yes, sir.
So first off, what kind of business do you own and how did you get into it?
So the type of business I own is I'm a DJ with the LLC, and I got into it basically because of a couple friends as well as my dad. He also DJs, but he doesn't understand the business side of it. So I kind of just took that and ran with it.
That's huge. So what are some of your favorite venues to DJ at?
I would say, honestly, so the type of DJing I do like open format and live DJing. So it can be like a house party, an event on campus, something like in the auditorium or something like that. But I would say my favorite place to DJ is probably like house parties. The energy is just different. You never really know what's going to happen. And yeah, it's just really crazy.
That's super cool. So how do you make DJing profitable, or how do you get your money and your revenue into your business? Because I've never really heard of a DJ business or how it works, so I'd love to hear about that.
So I think the first thing is kind of like understanding your market and seeing what other people charge. So I had a lot of time to shadow another DJ. For some people, they may know him. For some, they don't. But within my fraternity, there was another DJ. His name is DJ Grimas. He's a very good DJ, but just like my dad, he didn't really like, as far as like promoting himself and like marketing his DJ business, he didn't really do that very well. But he was a really good DJ, very well known in Cali. And I would say the way I make it profitable is just simply, I charge a specific rate, an hourly rate, depending on what the event is. So if it's like a very small get together, I'll probably charge like $60, maybe less. It all depends on the person and what we agreed upon. But if it's a bigger event, you can see like $75 to $100. So as far as profitability, let's say I do like a 4-hour event, I can make about like $250 to about $400 within 4 hours. And compared to like a regular job, it's way better.
Yeah, for sure. That does sound huge. So when you get this money, how do you reinvest your capital back into it, and how do you manage your cash flow to make sure that the business keeps running and keeps going instead of just like sputtering out and losing all the money?
Sure thing. This is definitely something I struggled with early on, which is kind of like knowing how to reinvest into my business. So I want to say when I first started DJing, at least like trying to get my own equipment and do it by myself, was this summer. I actually was able to get some equipment from my dad, and then like that was exactly what I needed to start off. He gave me my first set of speakers, and they were really high quality speakers. So as long as the quality was good, everything else kind of just flowed into place. So it kind of started off with me DJing off my iPad first, and I ended up upgrading and getting a MacBook. So just like making small investments like that, always having multiple cords, and just trying to buy better equipment so I can just provide a better service is pretty much how I continue to grow the business.
That's huge. So how do you advertise this, and how do you find new leads and new customers to get into your DJing events and everything like that? So how do you find these new avenues?
Sure thing. So I would say the events themselves, they do a lot of the publicizing and advertising and all the marketing that I need, because they can literally hear what I do like while they're at the event. Now, outside of that, I actually have a sticker on the back of my laptop, if you can see that. Just like little things like that, creating small things like that so people can understand my brand and understand who I am. And that's kind of how I separate myself from other DJs is, you know what I'm saying, just advertising. Also, I try to get into content a little bit. I'm trying to get better at it, but I actually plan on investing in Ray-Ban Metas and then using that to kind of get POV content like while I'm DJing at sets. Just kind of like trying to see the life of a DJ and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's super cool. I think that would be a huge investment and really good to watch.
Yes, sir.
So when you're DJing, what inspired you to get into it? Like, is this one of your like favorite passions that you love to do?
So fun fact is that, like I was telling you, my dad, he used to DJ back in the day, and he actually DJs now. But before he even DJ'd, we would like literally every Saturday, like my dad worked a lot, but I grew up with him. And every Saturday we would just like get up early in the morning, cook breakfast, and then like literally make beats for like 5 hours. And that kind of just, it forced me to really like have a different type of love with music. And from that love with music, like my overall goal is to be a producer in the long term. However, DJing is like kind of like that first entry level where I can like get in and just understand like the basics of music, like BPM and things of that nature. So I got to credit a lot of why I have a passion for DJing to my pops.
So DJing is like learning the fundamentals to get to the producer level?
Yeah, essentially that's kind of how I want to look at it is, DJing is kind of like the first step into getting into producing. Now, there are a lot of producers who started producing first and then they start DJing. And even then, like, you can kind of see like the talents transfer over. It's not a direct connection. However, they complement each other very well.
That's super cool. So from DJ to producer, what are all the steps in between that you plan to go through to get to that next level?
Well, I think the first thing for me is just kind of finishing off school and doing everything that I want to do so I can fund my dreams and my aspirations. As a DJ, I make enough money to like support myself in college very well. However, what I really want to do is get into like the IT field and stuff like that, get those certifications, go to grad school at UCLA, and then once I'm done with that, then as I'm making my new income, whether that be six figures or whatever it is, just investing that money into like anything that I want to do as far as producing. So if that's to get me into certain places so I can meet certain people, then that'll be what it has to be. Just buying different softwares like Logic Pro or like Ableton, and then just kind of playing with those type of things. You can also get certifications in music production, which would also be like very cool because in a sense, I would have the basic fundamentals of what it means to be a producer. So the process of becoming a producer from DJing, it has so many different avenues that I couldn't even pick one, but I would say like just focusing on my career right now and then moving forward into the producer path is probably what I'm going to do.
So when you become a producer, what kind of artists do you want to work with and what kind of style music is your favorite that you would love to work on the most?
All right, so I would say my favorite type of music right now isn't actually rap, but however, I really like Caribbean music and dancehall music. So if I could just find like an avenue between, honestly, the type of music that Drake makes, I don't know if you ever heard of like Controller and stuff like that, but those type of songs are essentially like the type of music I want to make. I want to make really bouncy, vibey music, just music for everybody.
That's huge. That's huge. So what were some of the biggest struggles when starting out this business that you really had to like push through? And how did you do that?
So I would say, honestly, the ideation part was one of the most challenging things because I couldn't see myself like in this position now to where, people know me as a DJ. Like at first they just knew me as a chill guy, but like now they know me as a DJ. But I would say the beginning part was very hard because it was really just like one, showing up and practicing every day without getting anything. You know what I'm saying? Putting aside 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours to practice every single day. That was the main thing, was really just practicing. And then once I felt comfortable enough to practice, it kind of transformed into, okay, well, what do I need to be a DJ? And that was also a big learning curve because I had to understand connector cables, I had to understand RCAs, aux inputs, I had to understand how the limiter and how to not have your subwoofers so high so your speakers don't like break and stuff like that. Like all of those were things that I had to learn over time, but I would say the hardest part was literally just starting.
Yeah, for sure. So I can definitely relate to that for my clothing brand. Like just learning the beginning when you know nothing, like it's definitely the hardest part and it feels like you're making no progress, but you definitely eventually do. What was your favorite project that you've worked on as a DJ so far in your early career?
I was able to get into like my first project with mixing and mixing alone. So basically like taking a song and then mixing it up in order for it to have a different effect on the crowd. Also just cutting it down and stuff like that. I did it for the Alphas. They had a pageant and I was able to provide the song in the mix and the girl actually won second place. And granted, like this wasn't something where I was like overly credible or it wasn't some big party or anything like that. However, it was a point in where I was able to challenge myself. And I think I just found beauty in that because I learned that I could do something that I didn't know how to do before.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a great story. So what was one of the moments where you're like, wow, I can really do this? Like, I really just created something like insane on myself. And like, is there a moment that really gave you like some confirmation that you can really go to like the visions that you have for yourself?
So I would say there were two key moments. The first moment being the first time I ever got paid for doing anything. So when I first started DJing, I was DJing for free. Anywhere I went, or I started during the summer, so any type of pool party that people were having, I would just come, set up, and just start DJing. And I would do that for free. And then we were actually just having a little kickback with some friends, and there were some like Hispanic guys. They just wanted me to play some Hispanic Latino music, and I was like, sure. And then the guy literally just kept bringing me money to play songs, and I was like, wow, like Like, and it was like more money than I made at an hourly job or even at my work study job here at campus. Like, he gave me $50 for 45 minutes worth of work. I've never made $50 an hour in my life. So that was pretty crazy. But I would say from there, it's kind of when I started to brand myself, and then I actually got an LLC. Once I got an LLC, that's when I kind of knew, like, okay, this is real. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, I do. I remember when I made my LLC and I'm getting my first couple sales, and you're like, wow, I can really make money from this and stuff. So what is one of, like, your best days that you've ever made on DJing or night, or just, like, the best payout that you've ever gotten? And how did that make you feel in that moment? Like, what? Just take me through that, like the setup, and did you work extra hard that day, or was it just one that you showed up and it was just a really good day?
So actually, there was one weekend where I want to say I DJ'd for about roughly 15 to 20 hours, right? It was a whole weekend of parties. However, the amount of money I made throughout that time was, I think, okay, so the times that I DJ'd, there was one party I DJ'd for about 4 hours. Then there was a pregame that I had to DJ, and that was like 2 hours. And then there was an after party that I had to DJ for about 3 hours. And then we had a day party, and that was like 4 hours. And it was just back-to-back events. But I made close to like $1,000, and that was literally like making, when you make $1,000 in a weekend, it kind of just opens like your mindset to like, yo, like I could really like do this. And then like it kind of just changed my perspective on how to manage money, and then like literally how much I could scale this, honestly. And that was back probably when I was charging like $50 an hour. Now I'm charging $75, so you can just imagine like the difference.
Yeah, for sure. That's super cool. I'm glad that you were able to do that in that weekend. And then, like, it's really cool seeing, like, through entrepreneurship, like, the level of cash flow that you can actually get, because, like, it's not limited. And, like, so that was super interesting. So what inspired you to start, like, into the business side of the LLC, and what, like, inspires you to go through entrepreneurship instead of, like, a 9-to-5 job that really keeps you going? And what interests you about entrepreneurship so much that you continue to pursue it every day?
So I would say what I like so much about entrepreneurship is literally the freedom. That's kind of just why I joined this college, was to just like gain knowledge. I feel like entrepreneurship for me is just learning something new every day. Whether the lesson that you're getting is a good or bad lesson, you're still learning something new. And as long as you keep that mindset of like, yo, I gained something even though I took an L, like it's just beautiful. I also think entrepreneurship is very beautiful because when you can pair your passion with something that's profitable, I think you would have way more fun even when things aren't going well than if you would have at like a 9-to-5. Like, for instance, a lot of people are on a government shutdown right now, and a lot of people aren't getting made. Like, they're not making any money, and they already don't like their jobs. Me personally, like, I couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that, like, I can still get booked for DJing while we're going through this government shutdown, to me, is just beautiful. And I think you asked how were things early on and why I got into the business side of things, correct?
Yes, sir.
So with the business side of things, I would say like my first couple of gigs was more so, I just felt like people weren't taking me serious. That was the first thing. Like I felt like people weren't taking me serious. The DJ space, it's crowded. However, it's also like you can find your niche in your market. And my niche was here at Florida State. And that's kind of why I got in the business side, because I can get on FSU's procurement services and actually get booked like through the school. So not only just getting booked at like parties or stuff like off the record, but getting booked like at school, you know what I'm saying? Getting booked by SGA, BSU, Women's Student Union, like any of those organizations, if they wanted to, they could. Because like I have the EIN, the LLC to kind of like back that, and they can put it on their taxes. So that's definitely why I wanted to get into the business side. Just being readily available to DJ at any time, whenever, whatever, without having any problems, even if it was like anything legal.
Mm-hmm. Something that I actually enjoy is managing the money of the business side. Like, a lot of people say they don't enjoy that. How do you feel about it? Like, I love the control and like putting something in here and there and trying to choose in my investments. So my next question is, how do you choose investments over other things, and what qualifies as like a better investment in your opinion, and like the best thing to invest your money in?
I think, so I got to credit Jim and Rand because we have a great accounting class, and in there I got to learn a little bit of like financial and managerial accounting. So while I was in there, like, of course I can't remember everything I learned in the class. However, there were some fundamental things that were instilled in me, which is like, investing back into the business. And I would say what kind of constitutes a good investment versus a bad investment is just like, if I invest in this, am I going to, is 1 hour work going to cover this? Like, for instance, if I have to get like brand new cords, that's a good investment, because if I don't have those cords, like I literally won't be able to DJ. Like one cord being gone is me missing out on $250. So me putting in $30 to get a new cord, that's a fine investment. However, if I want to like get a particular software and maybe the software isn't benefiting me right then and there, then I probably should chill on it for a minute. You know what I'm saying? But I would say that's how I kind of decide what's a good investment or not. If it can immediately, like whether or not it's going to immediately have an effect, or if the effect is going to take a longer amount of time.
So how long have you been doing this, and have you reached the break even and profitable point yet into this business?
So I've been DJing, I would say as a professional. Actually, I got my LLC in August. Now I've been doing it since the summer. However, I've been DJing, I would say like practicing probably like the end of 2023.
Have you reached profitability and break even yet?
Oh, yes. I feel like the amount of money I've put into DJing, I've already made back like tenfold. Like, because I would say maybe my laptop was probably like $600. My dad gifted me my speakers, so that wasn't something that I had to pay for. And that was like a really big thing, because speakers alone are probably like depending on the quality, could be like $1,000 a piece. You know what I'm saying? Just for one speaker, or close to like, for maybe like mid-tier, maybe like 500. But yeah, I would say, and then buying a DJ board, of course, and then just getting extra cores over time. But I've definitely reached the break-even point, and even like made more money on top of like what it took me to actually start this.
So how did it feel reaching your first profit, like on the entire investments on the business? And how did that make you feel, just reaching that certain point? Because I know that is a very impactful point in the journey of a business. So how did that feel?
It just felt amazing. Like literally after that first $1,000 weekend that I did, like in the beginning of the semester, I was just like, yo, whoa, like I'm really going to like one, I got to learn how to be humble with the amount of money that I'm going to be making, because like I feel like a lot of times when people start to make more money, they start to increase their expenses. And that's one thing that I didn't want to do. So I think just like staying humble the whole time was really important for me. And I think the feeling that I got, like knowing that like, okay, like I passed the point of where like I've invested the amount of money in this business, it was just a really good feeling. And then like, honestly, just made me want to keep growing it, like, and grow it more. So now what I plan on doing is just getting with my friends who own their own businesses, and then using stuff like that to my advantage. So for example, I have a friend, he's a photographer, but he also wants to get into videography. So what we did was a video shoot, and in turn, that video shoot helped out my business, but also helped out his. I mean, we did a photo shoot first. We're also planning to do a video shoot, just coming up with ideas and stuff like that. So, yeah.
That's really cool. So what was one of the biggest losses that you've ever took during DJing, and how did you bounce back from that? And what did you do like to become better after your biggest loss?
Honestly, I don't really see anything that happens throughout like the time frame of me starting this as an L. I always see everything as a win or something to learn from. However, I would say just like the beginning part, I would say the biggest thing was like not being able to get certain things when I needed them because I didn't have the finances. So just like waiting, being patient, like that was a really big thing, is just being patient and knowing everything was going to work out and not trying to rush it.
Yeah, no, patience is definitely key. Like, especially for my business too, when I'm waiting on manufacturers to like make the clothes and get them in, like it feels like you're slacking, but like, you know, it's all got to work out in the end.
Sure thing. Yeah, but outside of that, I would say the biggest L's are literally just like leaving cords at home. Like there have been times where I've left like an extension cord, and then like I needed the extension cord to get to the spot. So I would have to like drive 30 minutes back home just to go get it. But other than that, like I don't really take L's. I try to be as prepared as possible when coming. So yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. And so what is, for your recent plan, what is the next big step that you have in the near future that you're really excited to work on and to do for your business?
So the next big step for me is just really like getting into the content realm. And that starts off with just getting these Ray-Ban Metas. Like that's the first thing. But also like really dialing in on the ideas that me and my friend Dan have to do for these videos. That's really the big thing, just getting on in the content side, posting mixes every day, kind of just going on like maybe like a 3-month run of just like content. But yeah, definitely like just I actually like pre-recording that content and just having it ready and then building a schedule to post it. Like those are probably like my next big goals. I think as far as like within my area of where I work or my niche, which would be like FSU, the FSU scene, Black FSU, whatever you want to call it, right? Within that scene, I feel like I'm doing pretty well as far as like getting bookings and just like maintaining bookings and maintaining relationships. So the next step is to really just expand and push myself out further.
Yeah, that's huge. So I do a lot of content for my business, and one of my favorite things to do is film a bunch of videos and then just edit and post them, because filming is honestly like the hardest part. So it's good to do that a lot at once. And so what are your plans for like the content? What are you planning on posting, and what platforms do you think will be the best for your business?
So I'm gonna start off by answering the platform question. So as far as the platforms, I think of course TikTok, YouTube Shorts. Like I love YouTube Shorts, and I would say like as a DJ personally, I find myself going to YouTube way more than TikTok. So I think other DJs probably think very similarly. So also getting on the YouTube Shorts wave, and then Instagram Reels. Like those 3 things, I feel like if I just post the same content on those 3 things every day, like I'll be fine. As far as the type of content I want to post, the first idea that I came up with was doing 100 days of posting mixes until I blowed up. So what that would be would just me mixing any song, anything that could really like sound good going together, and then posting it just for one, to maybe get a nostalgic vibe, but also to kind of like just to stay consistent and consistently get views. Also, I want to relate the type of mixes that I'm posting to like everyday things. So when you're cleaning up on Sunday, this is the type of mix you want to play. And yeah, those are the type of ideas that I have just to like for it to like blow up and do its thing as far as the internet.
Yeah, I love that. Also, series are really good. I feel like that'll be a really great step for your business in DJing, because if you have a series that someone likes, it keeps people coming back. Like one of my most successful things on my channel is actually a series. So I think that'll be really good for you. And so for the mixes, what kind of music do you like to mix together, or do you mix like a bunch of different types of music together for just and like try and fit it to the function?
So whenever I'm DJing at a function, I kind of just play towards like to the crowd's liking. So, and then most of the time it's a live or open format. A lot of people think like when I'm DJing, like, oh, like how long did it take you to learn that? And it's like, it didn't take me any time to learn it. I just kind of did it on the spot. But I would say the type of music that I like to do most of the time, it's just like what's trendy. So a lot of rap, R&B, I could do pop. What I want to get into though is house music and like EDM and stuff like that, because I feel like that's where the money is. But as of right now, just like rap, dance hall, pretty much anything that's like mainstream, like I do. And yeah, as far as like the different type of mixes, I just try to like, there's actually a kind of like a science when it comes to like mixing songs. You don't want to like have a big BPM change. So what I mean by that is you don't want to go from like a slow song to like a really hype dance song. Like you wouldn't want to go from like 70 BPM to a song that's like 130 BPM but you could do like 140 because, well, to explain that, I would actually have to show you, but essentially when you're DJing, you kind of want to stay in between like 5 BPM, and then that's just beats per minute. So like, let's say I had a song at 75, I would either want to stay 5 above, which would be 80, or 5 below, which would be 70. And then just like keep it there no matter what the song is. And then throughout an event, I kind of start with slower songs and then kind of build up gradually, play those songs that people, they know more and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's super cool. So like I actually did not know that much about the science, and it's really cool to know that like you got to keep the same like consistency across of it.
Yep.
So what kind of songs would you start with the slow song and gradually speed it up? Do you do this every time, or do you like switch it up depending on like the place, or if you're just trying something new, or is this like the base standard that you think is good for DJing?
So prime example, I was actually back in Orlando DJing for my family, and DJing for them is completely different than DJing for people up here. Like what I would play to start off an event here is different than what I would play there. So down there, like it's a lot of old people, they go to church and stuff like that. So I'm playing music from the 70s. So I'm playing like a lot of, or 70s and 80s. So I'm playing like a lot of Bobby Brown, Earth, Wind and Fire, the Commodores, stuff like that. When it comes to it's like stuff I would play here, I kind of want to focus on like Afro beats. Really, it's like calm, upbeat, simple music, stuff like that. And yeah, a lot of nostalgic stuff. Drake's always good. So that's the type of stuff that I would play in these type of settings. But like back there, I would probably play like 70s music, a lot of old stuff.
That's super cool. So it's like a location and people dependent on the style that you're going to do? Yeah,
it's definitely, I would say DJing, I would say anybody can learn how to mix. That is the easiest part. I could teach you how to mix right now. Like, and you can learn how to do it on the computer. That's the easiest part. The part that makes you a really good DJ and essentially has people fall in love with you is your library. You know what I'm saying? What type of songs do you have? And then also, I would say it's the song selection. Like when you play those type of songs, do you keep the crowd hyped, or are they dying? Are they in and out music and the mixes every now and then? You know what I'm saying? When it's time for you to keep it upbeat, are you keeping it upbeat? Like it's a lot of crowd control and understanding the crowd more than it is just mixing a song. Like that, to me, that's the easiest part. But understanding the crowd and catching the vibe, that's the hard part.
Yeah, that was actually a really cool, interesting factor that I didn't really think about. So how have you developed your like crowd reading abilities, and what do you do to like keep them upbeat and in a good emotion? And do you take requests from people as well?
Oh man, that was a great question, man. I feel like a lot of DJs, they're gonna understand where I'm coming from, speak on request. But I would say as far as like DJ requests and stuff like that, I do take requests. It all depends on the event. If there are a lot of people there, I genuinely can't take requests, and I kind of just try to focus on what I'm doing and keeping the energy, because taking one person's request may sacrifice like 500 people's fun. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. However, if it's like a smaller event, I would easily take the request. What was the other question you asked me?
How do you develop your crowd reading skills and adjust to the motion of the vibes that they give off?
So I would say when I first started DJing, I kind of focused on just like playing songs that everybody knew, and then I had to realize like you can't go from a rap song to like a really slow R&B song, you know what I'm saying? Or if you're gonna do it, like how are you going into that? Are you gonna do like a straight drop, or are you gonna mix it in? Like learning different stuff like that. But I would say over time, I just gradually got better at like reading crowds and understanding when to play songs. Like there are certain key points in the night where I know like I need to play the most hype stuff, like 12 to 1 o'clock. If the party ends at 2, I know from like 12 to 1 or like 12 to 1:30, I got to play the most hype stuff. So I think just experience, you know what I'm saying? Just going out there doing it, DJing in front of people, DJing in front of my friends, kind of like actually recording myself DJing and then listening to the mix, and I'm like, could I vibe to this? You know what I'm saying? Like, would I keep vibing to this? And then just always taking critiques. That was definitely like how I got better at just crowd reading and stuff like that.
That's huge. That's huge. So do you have preset mixes that you bring, or do you have like, okay, I have my library, I'm going to choose this song and blend it into this one? Or is it like a combination of both and you can kind of just edit throughout the night as well?
It's definitely a combination of both, but I don't create like a set list. I would say depending on the party, I would create a set list and how many people are going to be there. However, if it's just a regular or like just a small event, I kind of just open format it, just do whatever I have in my library. There's a party that's going on this Friday that I'm actually DJing, and for that, like I would want to like make a list because it's a Halloween party. You know what I'm saying? So I would want to have like set songs that I want to play at like certain times of the night and stuff like that, or maybe like certain mixes that I would want the crowd to hear. But other than that, most of it is just open and live.
That's super cool. That's super cool. So for this Halloween party, do you choose music that's like themed? Like, do you have Halloween music in the mix, or is it more of like just like, are we going for just party vibes with this one, or is it also a combination of both with that one?
So it's definitely a combination of both, but of course, like you have to drop those Halloween songs that everybody knows. So of course, like they're gonna want to hear Thriller at some point of the night. It's just like, when am I gonna play that song? Most likely, I'll probably play it at like 12 or something like that. So Thriller, there was actually this Halloween bounce mix that was kind of going viral on TikTok. So I kind of added that in there just for the vibes and stuff like that. And Rod Wave has a song called Federal Nightmares. A lot of people love this song. So whenever they hear that drop, like they're going to love it. So just like figuring out when throughout the night to play those songs, that's going to be a big thing. But like majority of it would just be like playing what people know. Anything that's like nostalgic, maybe some old Lil Wayne, stuff like that. And yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool and super fun. So what was the biggest venue that you went to? And is it easier to DJ big venues or small venues in your opinion?
So the biggest venue that I went to was it's a venue in Tallahassee. It's called the SV Lounge. Actually, so I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and we have some brothers across the track at FAMU, and they were actually throwing a party, and then they decided to book me as their DJ. And I would just say, like, that experience, I would say it's just a little bit different, only because, like, you kind of get in the mindset of, and there's going to be a lot of people here, and then it's going to be, like, way different. But overall, I'm really trying to, like, get better at DJing at clubs and stuff like that, and just, like, trying to, like, develop, like, okay, like, just, it's really a confidence thing, I would say. Because you have the skills, you have the library, but really just, like, keeping that confidence, keeping that composure, and then just getting through your set. And I will say, like, DJing at a club is different than DJing at a house party, only because at a house party, more than likely, I'm probably DJing, like, the whole 4 hours. At a club, I probably have, like, a 2-hour set, so maybe I'm DJing from, like, 10 to 12. You know what I'm saying? And I would say that makes it easier for me, only because, like, it's only 2 hours, so I don't have to think about what songs I have to play for the next 4 hours. And if you're doing a 10 to 12 set, that's kind of the easier set to do than a 12 to 2 set, because 12 to 2 is considered the most hype part of the night. Like, that, in that aspect, I would really prepare. I would probably have, like, a set playlist of, like, what I'm going to play, and I probably wouldn't take any requests. But if I'm doing 10 to 12, I'm just trying to keep the vibes. Everybody's trying to get into the party, and then around, like, 11:30 to 12 o'clock, like, I'm just turning them up, getting them ready for the next guy.
So the 12 to 1 time frame is, like, would you say that's the most important and the harder one to pick?
Yeah.
Like, is there more pressure on that time frame than the earlier times?
There's always pressure on the 12 to 2 DJ because, one, the 12 to 2 DJ is probably going to be the more notable DJ, or the DJ that everybody knows. So, like, it's like some of your bigger DJs, they're going to be like the 12 to 2 DJs. And I would say, yeah, there's a lot more pressure on you. That's the peak point of the night. So everybody's gonna be there, and this is essentially, like, transferable, like, across, like, any type of genre of music, any type of, like, DJ formatting. So whether you do, like, house music, EDM, simple rap, or you just a live DJ, like, the person who goes last is always considered, like, either the best person or they have the most pressure on them.
That's super cool. So thank you so much for coming on. We're about to wrap it up, and thank you so much for coming on. And this was the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast. And I'm your host, Junior Reed, and we are signing out. Like and subscribe if you did enjoy.